Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling a subject that sits right at the intersection of your bank account and your life goals.
It really does.
It is the American dream debate,
Yeah.
but, completely revamped for the modern age.
Yeah.
You know the script. We all grew up with it. Go to high school, get good grades, get into a university, graduate, and the path to success is paved in gold.
That was the deal.
That was the deal. But
Yeah.
lately,
Yeah.
that vibe has, it's definitely shifted. We are seeing a massive crisis of confidence in that narrative.
It is a fascinating time to look at this. We are seeing a real a tug of war between the traditional promise of higher education, the idea that it's the golden ticket, and the harsh economic realities of today.
Yeah.
People are asking, is the degree actually worth the debt?
Exactly. So for this deep dive, we are doing something a little different. We are pulling from a structured lesson plan titled Weighing the Value of Higher Education.
Which is great.
Yeah, it's fascinating because it combines some pretty hard-hitting economic data with a close look at the language we actually use to talk about school, money, and, value.
And that linguistic angle is so important, how we talk about cost and value. I mean, it shapes how we perceive it. If you change the words, you can change the argument.
Our mission today is to decode the sticker price of college versus its actual value, explore this huge disconnect between public confidence and actual earnings, and look at what the source calls the recipe for success in this economy.
It is a multifaceted issue, so sticking to the structure of the source material will really help us unpack it logically.
I agree. The source suggests starting with the facts, and I think that's the best way to ground us. So I want to read the core text from our source material verbatim. This is the teaching article that lays the foundation for our entire discussion.
Let's do it.
Okay, so grab a coffee, settle in, and let's get these facts on the table. Here it is.
Is a university degree still a good investment? Public opinion is changing. In 2015, 57% of Americans felt confident in higher education. But by 2024, that number dropped to only 36%. With student loan debt nearing $1.8 trillion, families are questioning if the high cost is worth it. However, the data still suggests that college pays off. On average, workers with a bachelor's degree earn $1,493 per week, compared to just $899 for high school graduates. They also face lower unemployment rates. Yet not all degrees are equal. For example, an engineering major typically earns double the salary of a social services major. Experts advise students to look beyond just the sticker price of tuition, as financial aid often lowers the cost. They also suggest considering the non-monetary benefits, such as critical thinking skills and networking. For those who do not want a 4-year degree, vocational training and apprenticeships offer excellent alternatives to build skills and find work.
Okay, let's unpack this. That first stat is just, it's wild to me. 57% confidence dropping to 36% in less than a decade.
It's staggering.
That is not just a dip, that is a crash.
It is a precipitous drop. If you look at the big picture data slides from the source, that trend line is heading straight down. And you have to ask yourself, why?
Right.
The article mentions the $1.8 trillion in debt, and I think that is the heavy cloud hanging over everything. We moved from viewing college as an investment, something you put money into to get more out of, to viewing it as a burden.
It feels like the brand of university has taken a massive hit. It's like a luxury brand that suddenly everyone thinks is just, overpriced.
Mm-hmm.
But then right next to that gloomy confidence chart, the source throws this weekly earnings comparison at us.
Right, and this is the paradox. This is where the emotion of the debt meets the cold, hard facts of the labor market. You have $1,493 a week for a bachelor's degree holder versus $899 for a high school grad.
Let's do the napkin math on that because it helps to visualize it.
Yeah.
That is nearly a $600 difference.
Every week.
Every single week.
Exactly. Over a month, that's about $2,400 extra in your pocket if you have the degree. Over a year, you're looking at roughly $30,000 more.
And over a 40-year career.
You are talking well over $1 million in lifetime earnings difference. So purely from a data standpoint, the skepticism doesn't seem to match the payout. The premium for having a degree is still very much there.
So we have a crisis of confidence, but the economic engine is still running the same way. The source breaks this tension down into 3 big buckets: rising tuition, future earnings, and career alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
And it asks the question, is college still worth the cost?
And to answer that, we have to understand the vocabulary of value. Following the source slides, we move from the data to the definitions. The source material highlights some specific financial terms that are crucial for understanding this nuance.
Okay, let's slide into that vocabulary. The first big word is tuition.
Right. Defined simply as the money paid for instruction. The source notes the average cost cited is about $11,000.
Which honestly sounds low compared to some of the horror stories you hear about private colleges charging, what, $60,000 or $70,000 a year.
That is a key point. That $11,000 figure is likely an average, including public in-state universities and, community colleges. But even at that price, for many families, tuition has become a synonym for barrier.
It's the gatekeeper.
It's the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
And importantly, the definition specifies money paid for instruction. It doesn't include room, board, books.
Just living.
Right, just living. So tuition is just the entry fee.
And that leads us to the second word, which I think is the most loaded word in the whole text, disparity.
Yes. A lack of equality or similarity, especially in an unfair way.
It's that unfair way part that sticks.
The text uses it to talk about lifetime earnings, but I think disparity applies to the whole system. There is a disparity in who can afford to go, and as the text mentioned earlier, a disparity in what you get out of it depending on your major.
Right, the engineering versus social services gap. That is a massive disparity. It implies that the system isn't a flat landscape. It's got these...
Peaks and valleys.
Yeah, peaks and valleys. And if you fall into a high-debt, low-paying major, that disparity becomes your life.
Exactly. Moving on to the skills and training vocabulary, we get a shift in focus from money to ability. We have aptitude.
Defined as natural ability.
This is interesting because it raises the question, does college create aptitude, or does it just polish it?
Yeah.
Or maybe more critically, is college the only place to discover your aptitude?
That's a great question. I feel like for a long time, we acted like aptitude could only be found in a lecture hall. But that connects perfectly to the next term, transferable.
Transferable skills.
Yeah.
This is the hidden value of the degree and often the defense for the liberal arts. The source defines it as skills able to be used in a different situation. When people defend the general college experience, this is what they are talking about. Maybe you studied history, but you learn how to synthesize complex arguments. That is a transferable skill that applies to business, law, marketing.
And in a world where AI can write code or do basic accounting, those transferable skills like critical thinking, human connection, they're harder to automate, right?
Precisely. Those soft skills become hard currency. But the source also offers a counterweight to the degree path with the term apprenticeship.
A system of training a new generation of practitioners. I love that this is included as a key term. It signals that the college or bust mentality is fading.
It frames apprenticeship not as a backup plan for people who couldn't handle school, but as an excellent alternative. That is a significant shift in language.
It is.
It validates the idea that learning by doing and getting paid while you do it is a legitimate path to success.
It's almost like a return to an older model, but with modern respect. Speaking of language, let's get into the language analysis section of the source. This is slides 7 and 8. There are some really interesting idioms and grammar choices here that reveal how we construct this argument.
The first one that jumps out is the concept of sticker price.
Oh, I use this all the time. It is the advertised price. Like when you walk onto a car lot and see the number in the window and your heart stops for a second.
Exactly. But in the context of higher education, the source couples this with the phrasal verb factored in.
To include in calculation.
The argument here is don't panic at the sticker price. Once federal aid, grants, and scholarships are factored in, the reality is often much different.
Right.
The source is trying to bridge that gap between the terrifying headline number and the actual check you write.
It's a call for financial literacy, really. You have to do the math. You can't just look at the menu price. You look at the coupons you have.
There is also a grammar note here about the phrase confidence has declined.
Why does the tense matter there?
It's the present perfect tense. It indicates a change over time that connects to the present. It's not that confidence declined in 1990 and stopped. We are currently living in the result of that decline.
Oh.
It sets the stage for the concession that follows in the text. Confidence has declined, but UT having a degree often still has benefits.
Ah, I see. The but still structure. It acknowledges the pain. Yes, confidence is down, but insists on the reality. The benefit remains. It's trying to hold two opposing thoughts at once.
It is a rhetorical move to validate the listener's feelings while correcting their assumption. Yes, you are angry, but don't let that anger make you ignore the data.
Let's look at how they compare things on the next slide. And we saw the stat earlier, but the language used is nearly double. Graduates who majored in mechanical engineering make nearly double a social services major.
That phrase, nearly double, does a lot of heavy lifting. It highlights that disparity we defined earlier. It forces you to look at the return on investment. It's not just a small gap, it's a chasm.
And that leads to my favorite idiom in the whole deck: recipe for success.
Method for success. How does the source use it?
It says, choosing a degree purely for financial returns without interest alignment is hardly a recipe for success.
That is a crucial distinction. We have spent all this time talking about money, 1,493 Tausers a week, ROI, but then the text pivots. It says if you chase the money but hate the work, that is not success.
It mentions the phrase aligns with. You need a degree that aligns with your interests.
It is trying to balance the equation. Money matters, but so does aptitude and passion. If you force yourself into engineering because of the nearly double salary, but you have zero aptitude for math, you're likely to drop out or be miserable.
Which is a bad investment.
A very bad investment.
So the recipe isn't just one ingredient. It's money plus interest plus ability. If you miss one, the cake doesn't rise.
Exactly.
Let's zoom out a bit. We have looked at the individual numbers, the vocabulary, the idioms. But slide 9 takes us to a different level. It is the societal view.
This is the so what moment. The text says, it is not about just the individual benefit. It is about the benefits of the entire society from us providing this opportunity for people.
That is a big shift from how much will I make to what does this do for us?
It frames the university not just as a salary factory, but as a public good.
Right.
Think about it. You personally benefit when there are well-trained doctors, even if you aren't a doctor. You benefit when there are civil engineers designing safe bridges, even if you never studied engineering. We all benefit from an educated populace.
So the opportunity mentioned isn't just the opportunity for the student to get rich. It is the opportunity for society to advance.
Correct. And this helps explain why there is such anxiety around the cost. If higher education is a public good that benefits everyone, why is the cost burden falling so heavily on the individual student?
Oof.
That is the tension underlying that confidence drop.
That is a deep point. If we all benefit, why am I the one $50,000 in debt? It feels like I'm paying for a public park that everyone gets to walk in.
And that resentment fuels the drop from 57% to 36%.
This brings us perfectly to the critical thinking section, which is the final part of the lesson. The source poses a direct challenge to you, the listener. It shows two paths. The image is actually really cool. On the left, you have a path paved with coins leading to a city.
And on right.
A path with flowers and light bulbs leading to ideas.
It's a classic conflict, paycheck versus passion.
And the question asked is, which path would you choose? And why do you think public confidence dropped from 57% to 36%? Is it just the cost?
I would argue, based on our discussion, it is not just the cost, it is the uncertainty of the value. When you buy a car, you see the sticker price, you pay it, you drive the car, you know what you got.
Yeah.
With college, you pay the sticker price or some version of it, invest 4 years of time, and the outcome is not guaranteed.
Right. You might graduate into recession. Or find out your transferable skills aren't as transferable as you thought.
And regarding the second question, should students choose a major they love or one that pays well? The source seems to suggest a middle ground.
The aligns with argument again.
Yes,
Yeah.
You need the intersection. Pure passion with no market value can be a hobby. Pure market value with no passion is drudgery. The recipe for success is where those two overlap.
The source also brings up some systemic questions on slide 11 that are really worth chewing on. One of them is a degree still the best proof of ability, or are skills more important?
This brings us back to transferable skills versus the piece of paper. In the tech world, for example, we are seeing a shift. Employers are asking, can you code? Not, do you have a computer science degree?
But the data still says the degree holders earn more.
For now, that is the lag in the system. The degree is still the primary signaling mechanism. It tells the employer, I have grit, I can finish things, I have a baseline of competence.
Okay.
But as apprenticeships and certifications gain ground, that signal might get weaker.
Another systemic question here is transparency. Do universities need to be more clear about the real cost versus the sticker price?
Absolutely. If we want to restore confidence, that move from 36% back up to 57% transparency is key. If families feel like they're being tricked or that the financial aid process is a black box, they withdraw.
They lose trust.
Trust is the currency here, not just dollars.
And finally, do you agree that higher education is a public good?
If we answer yes to that, it changes the conversation about debt entirely. If it is a public good, then the $1.8 trillion in debt isn't just an individual failure, it is a systemic design flaw.
That is a heavy realization. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground. We have dissected the data, the definitions, and the dilemmas. Let's try to bring it all back together with a recap of the main takeaways from the source. Slide 12 sums this up.
Sure, let's boil it down to 3 key points.
Point 1, the disconnect. Public confidence is down significantly, that 36% number, but the hard economic data proves that degrees still increase earnings and lower unemployment.
The premium exists even if we feel bad about the cost.
Point 2, context matters. You must look beyond the sticker price and factor in financial aid to understand the true cost.
And you have to understand the disparity between majors. Not all degrees are created equal financially.
And point 3, there's more than one way to win. Transferable skills are the real asset, and apprenticeships are valid, valuable paths.
Exactly. You don't have to follow the traditional script to find success.
And remember those key words: tuition, disparity, aptitude, transferable, apprenticeship. Those are the tools you need to have this conversation intelligently. So we have reached the end of the lesson plan, but as always, we want to leave you with something to chew on. We talked about the public good.
Right. And here's where I get a little worried. If confidence in universities continues to drop, but the data shows they remain the primary gatekeepers of high earnings, what happens?
What do you mean?
Well, if only the wealthy or the legacy families feel confident enough to send their kids to college because they can absorb the cost, and everyone else opts out because of the sticker price shock or fear of debt,
But the high-paying jobs still require the degree.
then we are looking at a massive calcification of social class.
So the American dream mechanism breaks. It stops being a ladder and starts being a wall.
Exactly. If the confidence gap leads to an enrollment gap, the earnings gap will just reinforce the inequality we already have. Restoring confidence isn't just about university PR, it might be about the future of social mobility.
That is a huge thought to end on. It is not just about your wallet. It is about the whole structure of opportunity. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the value of education.
It was a pleasure. Keep learning.
We will see you in the next session.